The night the sky wept silver was the night everything changed. Over the barren fields of the human colony on Arvin 9, the stars fell like broken mirrors, each shard shimmering with impossible light. Among the scattered onlookers stood Elias Ward, a mechanic's apprentice barely 20 years old, his hands still stained with the day's grease and his heart still full of Earth songs his mother once hummed. "Those aren't meteors," someone whispered, and they were right. From the largest streak of light a vast silver structure descended, folding itself with elegance no human machine could imitate. It hovered silently above the valley, its smooth mirror-like hull breathing soft blue pulses into the air. The colonists froze, their fear and awe melting into one. A voice echoed across their comms, not through speakers, but through thought itself. "Do not flee. I come for peace." The voice was serene, ageless, and undeniably female. Moments later, the structure unfolded again, forming a bridge of light that touched the ground. From it descended a being draped in flowing crystal-like silk, her skin faintly radiant, her eyes like liquid moonlight. She moved with calm grace, but the power that surrounded her could silence an army. The crowd fell silent. Elias didn't bow like the others. He was too captivated, too humanly curious to move. Her gaze found him, and for a fraction of a second the world fell away. He felt a warmth brush his mind, a whisper gentle yet commanding. "Do not fear me, child of Earth." The soldiers nearby raised their weapons instinctively, but the woman lifted a single hand. The air shimmered, and the rifles floated softly to the ground like falling petals. "I am Queen Earth of Elyndra," she said aloud this time, her voice rippling through the cold air like a song. "Your world and mine now share a horizon." Elias stepped forward, heart pounding. What are you doing here?" Her lips curved faintly. "Seeking something your kind still remembers, the meaning of trust." No one dared speak. Even the governor hesitated before approaching, his formal tone trembling. "Your Majesty, if you mean no harm." Liray's gaze cut gently to him. "I mean none. But I seek a human who can calm my child." The crowd exchanged uneasy murmurs. "Your child?" someone echoed. "Yes." Her voice softened with something almost human, worry. "My daughter's mind burns with pain. She dreams of the war between our worlds and wakes screaming of fire. My healers cannot reach her." The silence deepened. The name Elyndra itself was a scar in human memory, one of the first alien empires that had fought humanity generations ago before the uneasy peace. Elias swallowed. "And what can we do?" Lyria's silver eyes turned to him again. "Perhaps nothing. Perhaps everything. I have searched for the presence that can soothe her heart. The currents led me here." Her light intensified for a moment, wrapping Elias in a soft, luminescent aura. The others stepped back. What is this?" he stammered. "She reacts to your spirit," Liray murmured. "Your mind sings at her frequency." He stared at her, unable to comprehend the weight of her words. Then, as if sensing his doubt, Liray stepped closer. "Calm my child, human," she said, her tone layered with quiet authority and maternal desperation. "Do this, and I will marry you." The world went still. Even the wind dared not move. Elias blinked. "What?" She smiled faintly, as if she had just made a simple trade. "Among my people, to offer one's life bond is to seal trust between species. If you bring peace to my daughter, I shall bind my destiny with yours." And with that, she extended her luminous hand, silver light rippling around it like water touched by starlight. Elias hesitated, staring at the impossible bridge between fear and destiny before him. Then slowly his trembling hand rose to meet hers. The moment their palms touched, the silver sky shone brighter than ever before. When Elias awoke, the world had changed. He was no longer standing under the silver rain of Arvin 9. The air was warmer, rich with the scent of something like lilac and metal. He was inside the Queen's ship, or palace, if one could call a living structure of light and glass a ship at all. The walls shimmered softly, alive with veins of silver light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Liray stood before him, her presence both divine and comforting. "You are safe, Elias Ward," she said gently. "You are aboard the Elysian Crown, my home between worlds." Elias looked around, awe still overtaking fear. "It's alive," he whispered. The Queen inclined her head. "Yes, our vessels grow from crystalline seed, living extensions of our will. They remember. They heal." He tried to steady his voice. "Why me? I'm just a mechanic. Her eyes softened. Because your heart is unbroken. Your world still hums with wonder. My child, Liara, cannot hear the music of life anymore, only echoes of fire. You may remind her. Before Elias could respond, the walls parted like silk curtains, revealing a long corridor of liquid glass. Every step he took hummed beneath his boots, resonating faintly with his pulse. At the end stood a doorway made of light. Beyond it, a chamber filled with drifting motes of silver air. Liray stopped at its edge. You must enter alone, he hesitated. Your Majesty. If she's dangerous, she will not harm you, Liray interrupted softly. She fears herself more than any other. Elias took a deep breath and stepped through. The light dimmed around him. The air grew cool and weightless. At the center of the chamber hovered a figure, small, fragile, and glowing faintly blue. A young woman, barely more than a girl, curled into herself like a sleeping flame. Her hair floated gently as if underwater, strands glimmering like silver threads. Elias froze. She looked almost human. Then her eyes opened. They were Storm's. Pale, glowing, full of terror. She recoiled instantly, trembling. No fire, no screams, go away. Her voice cracked with panic and a pulse of energy burst from her body. The air rippled. Crystalline shards formed mid-air, spiraling around Elias like knives. He ducked instinctively, shielding his head. But the shards froze just inches from him, suspended in trembling air. Liara, Elias called out. I'm not here to hurt you. Her breathing came fast, shallow. You're human. They all burn. His heart pounded, but he forced his voice calm. I'm not from the war. I wasn't even born then. She blinked, confusion flickering through her fear. The shards wavered, lowering slightly. Elias took a slow step forward. Your mother sent me. She said you dream of fire. Liara's hands clenched. Every night. The screams, your kind ships. She stopped, shaking. They fall again and again in my mind. I can't stop seeing it. Elias's chest tightened. There was so much pain in her words, so much exhaustion behind her beauty. He took another step. Then let me help, he said gently. Tell me what you see when you close your eyes. She stared at him. For the first time, her voice softened. I see a boy standing beneath the flames. He doesn't run. He looks at me like you do now. Elias's throat caught. Maybe that's why I'm here. Liara hesitated. The shards dissolved into mist. He extended a hand. Not glowing, not commanding, just human. Let's make the fire stop together, okay? Her eyes trembled, a single tear of silver drifting down her cheek. When her fingers touched his, the light around them dimmed into something peaceful. Warm. Outside the chamber, Queen Liray stood silently, watching through the veil of energy. For the first time in years, the hum of her ship softened into calm resonance. He reached her, whispered one of her attendants. The queen closed her eyes, whispering to herself. He did more than reach her. He reminded her of what peace sounds like. But as the chamber glowed brighter, her serene face faltered, because deep within that light, she felt something unexpected blooming between her daughter and the human boy, something ancient, something forbidden. Time moved differently within the Elysian crown. Days melted into soft hours of light and song, as if the ship breathed along with its passengers. Elias didn't notice how long he'd been inside the healing chamber with Liara. He only knew that the girl who once trembled at every sound now laughed, softly, cautiously, like someone remembering how. Each session began with silence. Then Elias would speak, telling her stories of Earth, of rain tapping on window panes, of children chasing kites through muddy fields, of songs sung around warm fires. Liara listened with wide eyes as if each word painted a world she'd only dreamed of. You live among such fragile things, she said one day, brushing her fingers across the shimmer of his holographic projection of a tree. And yet you don't fear their loss? Elias smiled faintly. We do, but that's what makes them precious. Liara tilted her head, absorbing the thought. On Elyndra we preserve everything, even memory. We never let things fade. Maybe that's why it hurts, he said softly. Sometimes forgetting is how we heal. For a moment she looked away. Her silver eyes dimmed, haunted by something distant. My people forgot mercy once. That's how the fires began. Elias wanted to reach for her hand again, but this time, he didn't. Some emotions needed space to bloom. Outside the chamber, Queen Lyrae watched them from her observation cradle. She had not intended to grow attached, yet each passing hour chipped at the cold serenity that centuries of rule had built around her heart. Elias Ward had done what her finest healers could not. He spoke to her daughter not as royalty or alien, but as a frightened girl. Still, something deeper unsettled her, something she could not name. Every time Elias smiled at Liara, a pulse of warmth passed through the ship's veins, resonating with her own mind link. She could feel his sincerity, his unshielded humanity, and it stirred emotions she had long buried beneath duty. When she entered the chamber that evening, the light dimmed in respect. Liara brightened instantly. "Mother!" Lyrae smiled, her voice velvet soft. "My child, you seem calmer." Liara floated gently toward her, eyes alight with life. "He helps me see the stars differently." The queen's gaze shifted to Elias. "I see that." He bowed awkwardly. "Your Majesty." "Rise," she said. "Titles have no place in healing." Her voice was serene, but her heart beat unevenly. "You have given my daughter what my empire could not." Elias shrugged humbly. "Sometimes healing doesn't need power, just someone who listens." The queen studied him, her silver eyes tracing the quiet determination in his face. "You speak with wisdom rare among your kind." Elias gave a small smile. "Maybe wisdom's just another word for surviving mistakes." Her lips curved faintly. "Perhaps." The air grew still between them, charged with unspoken understanding. Liara watched them curiously, sensing something she couldn't name, something that flickered between gratitude and something gentler, warmer. Lyrae turned back to her daughter. "You have found calm?" Liara nodded. "When he speaks, the dreams fade. When he leaves, they whisper again." The queen's expression softened into both joy and concern. "Then he shall remain until the whispers are gone." Elias opened his mouth to speak, but Lyrae's calm tone carried a quiet finality that silenced him. Later that night, he wandered through the ship's vast corridors, unable to sleep. He had begun to understand the Elyndran way, how everything, even light, responded to emotion. The ship dimmed when he doubted, brightened when he felt hope. He found himself at a vast window where the stars drifted slowly by, endless and kind. He whispered to himself, "What am I doing here?" A soft voice answered behind him. Changing destinies, perhaps. He turned. It was Queen Lyrae. Her long silver gown shimmered in the starlight, her face touched with something human, tired yet tender. "You should rest," Elias said gently. "So should you." She stepped beside him, gazing out into the stars. "My people once believed humans were reckless children of chaos. But I see now. Your chaos births compassion." Elias looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time saw not an alien monarch, but a woman who carried worlds on her shoulders. Lyrae turned to him, her eyes softer now. "Elias Ward, if my daughter's peace endures, then I shall fulfill my word." He blinked. "You mean—" "Yes," she said, voice calm but trembling at its edge. "I will marry you." The stars outside flared brighter, as if listening, but deep within her tone, beneath honor and promise, there was something unspoken, something neither of them dared to name yet. The promise lingered in the air like the echo of a sacred vow. Elias stood frozen, unsure whether to bow or breathe. Queen Lyrae's words were calm, measured, yet behind their grace was an emotion that shook him deeper than fear ever could. Your Majesty." His voice faltered. "You don't have to—" "I must," she interrupted softly, her gaze steady but sorrowful. "Among my kind, words shape reality. What is spoken cannot be undone without dishonor. I gave you my vow before the stars themselves." Elias lowered his head. "But I didn't help your daughter for a reward. I just wanted her to be okay." Lyrae stepped closer, her silver aura dimming to a faint human warmth. "That is why your heart matters, Elias Ward. You act without promise of gain. That purity," she paused, her voice trembling slightly, "is rare among both our species." The silence stretched between them, broken only by the slow hum of the Elysan crown. Outside, galaxies swirled like spilled paint. Inside, two hearts, one human, one Elyndran, stood caught between duty and something they could not yet name. Lyrae turned toward the viewport, her reflection shimmering in the glass. My council will not approve. A queen cannot bond with a human. They will call it weakness. But weakness is not what I see when I look at you. Elias swallowed hard. And what do you see? She looked at him, her eyes glowing like distant moons. I see the calm I've searched for all my life. His chest tightened. For a long moment, neither moved. Then, sensing the weight of the moment, Lyrae took a small step back, reclaiming the regal stillness that had carried her through wars and centuries. Tomorrow, she said, we return to Elyndra. My daughter will face the Council of Heirs. She must prove her mind is healed. You will stand beside her as witness. Elias nodded slowly, if that's what she needs. But as the queen turned to leave, she paused, hesitating for the first time. Elias, she said softly without turning, when you speak to my daughter, speak as you always have. But when you speak to me, speak carefully. The world listens when I falter. And then she was gone, leaving only the echo of her words and the ghost of her scent, a faint silver warmth in the air. The next day dawned in light so brilliant it felt alive. The Ellison crown entered the orbit of Elyndra, a world that glowed like a pearl wrapped in mist. From above, Elias saw floating citadels, rivers of luminous gas and great towers that curved like living vines. The planet seemed to breathe beauty. Liara stood beside him, dressed in robes of soft azure crystal. She looked stronger now, still delicate but no longer afraid. It's home, she said quietly. But it hasn't felt like it in years. He smiled. Then maybe it's time it did. When they landed, an honor guard of Elyndran soldiers greeted them, their armor gleaming like frost. Behind them waited a vast hall of living glass, the hall of resonance where the council awaited. As Elias followed the queen and her daughter inside, he felt hundreds of eyes upon him. Every Elyndran in the hall seemed carved from light itself, tall and graceful, their faces unreadable. Whispers rippled through the chamber. A human. Beside the queen, Lyrae silenced them with a glance. Her presence alone was command. She raised a hand and Liara stepped forward, her composure poised but trembling. My daughter, Lyrae announced, has faced her storms and emerged whole. The human Elias Ward aided her healing. Let his presence stand as proof. An elder with silver markings leaned forward, eyes sharp. You speak of calm, yet bring chaos into our hall. His gaze cut toward Elias. The blood of war still echoes in his kind. Elias's jaw tightened. But before he could respond, Liara spoke, voice soft yet firm. No, the blood of war lies in silence, not in kindness. He did what your science could not. He listened. The hall stirred. Even the elder hesitated. Then Lyrae stepped beside her daughter, her voice low but powerful. Perhaps it is time we listen too. The council bowed in reluctant respect. The queen's word was law. As the proceedings ended, Liara squeezed Elias's hand gratefully. You gave them hope, she whispered. He smiled, feeling warmth rise in his chest. But when he looked toward the queen, her eyes met his, soft, searching, and for a fleeting second the entire hall seemed to fade away. In that silent glance, something vast and forbidden flickered between them, an understanding beyond titles or species. And as the stars outside Elyndra began to glow with approaching night, the queen thought of her vow once more. Calm, my child, and I'll marry you. Now her child was calm, and her heart was not. The evening after the council session was quiet but not peaceful. The air in Elyndra's high citadel carried the faint hum of tension, like the silence before thunder. Elias stood on the balcony of his guest chamber, gazing over the glowing city below. The lights of Elyndra pulsed like veins of a living being, shifting in gentle waves of blue and violet. Every structure seemed to sing, resonating softly in harmony with the planet itself. It was breathtaking and intimidating. He exhaled slowly, trying to understand the weight of what had happened. Liara was safe, healed, radiant, and that was all that mattered. But the queen's words haunted him still. I will marry you. He knew she had spoken from tradition, from solemn oath. Yet when he'd looked into her eyes, there had been something deeper, a quiet tremor beneath her calm. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. The door opened without sound, revealing Queen Lyrae herself. She stood in a gown woven from starlight, her crown faintly dimmed as if she had shed a layer of formality. Elias turned sharply. Your Majesty, she lifted a hand. No titles tonight, Elias. Her voice was almost a whisper. Just Lyrae. The words alone unsettled him more than any royal command. Then what brings you here? She stepped closer, the faint luminescence of her form reflecting off his eyes. To keep a promise. His heart stilled. You mean? Yes, she said softly. Our ancient vows are not spoken lightly. When I said I would bind my destiny with yours, it was no gesture. I do not break my word. Elias swallowed, searching her face for something he could grasp. Lyrae, I didn't help Liara to earn your hand. You don't owe me anything. A faint, wistful smile touched her lips. Perhaps not. But what if my heart wishes to give even when duty does not demand it? The word struck him with a warmth that felt both terrifying and beautiful. The queen, this being of radiant grace and cosmic power, was looking at him with something close to human longing. She turned away slightly, resting her hands on the balcony rail. Do you know what they call humans on Elyndra? She asked quietly. Elias shook his head. Kareth. It means those who feel too deeply. Our poets once used it as both an insult and a compliment. But after meeting you, I understand why your kind endures. You break, yet you still love. You lose, yet you still hope. Her voice trembled on that last word. Elias took a slow step closer. And you, Lyrae? What do you hope for? She hesitated. For a moment her regal mask slipped and behind it was a woman, tired, lonely, and yearning for something beyond duty. I hoped for silence. For centuries all I have known is command. But when you speak, the silence feels alive again. Elias's breath caught. You make it sound like I've done something great. She turned to face him, her eyes luminous with quiet sorrow. You have. You reminded me that peace is not found in laws or thrones, but in hearts that dare to feel. The air between them shimmered faintly, their reflections merging in the glass of the balcony rail. Neither moved, yet their closeness felt infinite. Then a soft voice interrupted, Liara's. She stood at the doorway, her silver gown trailing behind her. Mother Elias? Lyrae composed herself instantly, stepping back with grace only a queen could summon. Yes, child? Liara smiled gently, unaware of what had lingered in the air. The council requested your presence at dawn. They wished to discuss the peace declaration. The queen nodded. I will attend. Liara turned to Elias, her eyes bright with gratitude. And you? You'll be beside me, won't you? He smiled. Always. When she left, Lyrae remained by the balcony's edge, silent. Elias finally spoke, voice soft. She's special. She is my heart, the queen replied. And you have become the calm within it. He didn't know what to say. Finally, Lyrae looked up at the stars, whispering, The council will resist what comes next. They will not want a human bound to Elyndra's throne, but I have made my vow. I will not betray it. Elias took a slow breath. Then let me stand with you, whatever comes. Her gaze softened and a faint smile touched her lips. Then tomorrow, Elias Ward, we stand before the stars as one. But as she turned to leave, the light of the balcony flickered for a moment, an omen unnoticed by either of them. Far below the shining towers, shadows moved in the silver mist. The queen's vow had awakened not only hope, but enemies. Dawn broke over Elyndra in cascading silver light. The city shimmered awake, its crystal spires catching the first breath of the twin suns. The Hall of Resonance, once a place of law and ceremony, now buzzed with whispers, fear, and defiance. At its center stood Queen Lyrae, her crown alive with faint light, her posture calm yet unyielding. Beside her stood Elias Ward, dressed in Elyndran ceremonial cloth, woven with glowing threads that shifted color with his pulse. He had never felt more out of place, nor more determined. Liara sat quietly behind them, her silver eyes calm but anxious. Her recovery was the heart of this moment, yet her mother's vow had eclipsed it. The eldest counselor, Varen, rose from his seat, a tall, austere figure with markings of rank etched into his luminous skin. Your Majesty, he began, voice sharp as crystal, you cannot mean to bind our lineage to a human. It is not only unprecedented, it is unthinkable. Lyrae met his gaze evenly. You question the word of your queen? I question the wisdom of it, Varen replied coldly. A human's lifespan is brief, their bodies fragile, their emotions volatile. They are temporary, Our bond with them would shame our ancestors. Elias felt the sting of the words but held his ground. Before the queen could respond, Liara stood, her voice unexpectedly steady. If shame is born from compassion, then our ancestors were blind. Gasps filled the hall. Lirai's eyes widened slightly, half in surprise, half in pride. Varen's expression darkened. Child, your healing is incomplete. You speak from the human's influence. Liara stepped forward, unafraid. Yes, from his influence. He brought me peace when your medicines failed. He saw me as more than an heir, more than a symbol. He saw me as alive. Her words rippled through the hall like music against glass. The queen raised a hand, her tone cool and absolute. Enough, the vow was made. Our world honors promises, not prejudice. Elias Ward has given us peace where pride gave us pain. Varen bowed stiffly. Then forgive me, your majesty. But if the law bends for one heart, the empire will fracture. Before anyone could react, a sudden surge of light erupted from the hall's upper vaults. The air trembled. Guards shouted. From the shadows above, an unseen pulse of energy burst toward the dais, an assassination beam. Liray turned instantly, summoning a barrier of light that cracked against the attack, scattering shards of radiance across the floor. The hall plunged into chaos. Protect the queen, shouted the guards. Elias dove instinctively, grabbing Liara and shielding her as the blast rippled through the chamber. The ground shook. When the dust settled, a single shadow fled through the upper exits, a cloaked figure moving with unnatural speed. Liray stood firm, though the glow of her crown flickered faintly. Her hand trembled once before she steadied it. Elias rushed to her side. You're hurt! I am. Intact, she managed, though her voice carried strain. The council seal the chamber. But Varen's gaze said more than words. His silence was guilt. You knew, she whispered, her tone colder than the void. You knew this would happen. The elder did not deny it. I warned you. The order of continuance does not forgive broken tradition. Liray's expression hardened. Then they will face their queen's justice. As guards pursued the assassin, the hall trembled once more, this time from within the planet itself. A low, resonant hum that vibrated in Elias's chest. What's happening? He asked. Liray's eyes narrowed. The planetary heart. It senses discord. Elyndra herself is awakening. The luminous structures outside began to flicker erratically. Rivers of light twisted, skies pulsed with unnatural color. The living world was responding to the emotional upheaval of its ruler. Liara clutched her mother's arm. Mother, please, you must calm the connection or the entire capital will... Liray closed her eyes, focusing her breath, drawing on the energy that bound her to the planet. But her concentration faltered. Her emotions, love, fear, anger, were all entangled. Elias stepped forward, his voice gentle but steady. Liray, look at me. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing with fierce light. Elias, the bond, it's... Don't fight it, he said softly, placing his hand over hers. You told me once that peace comes from hearts that dare to feel. So feel. Don't suppress it. The queen's breath trembled. Around them the vibration slowed. The light softened, the city's pulse steadied. The chamber fell silent again. Only the faint hum of Elyndra's living core remained. Liray looked at him, truly looked, and whispered, You calmed me. Elias smiled faintly. Guess it's contagious. But behind her calm, the queen's mind was racing. If an attack had been ordered from within the council, then this was not just resistance, it was rebellion. She turned toward the assembly. The order will answer for this. Until then, no Elyndran leaves the capital without my command. Her voice echoed like thunder over crystal. And as Elias stood beside her, he realized the queen's vow had just become more than a promise. It had become a battle line. Night returned to Elyndra like a veil of silver mist. The capital glowed faintly beneath the twin moons, but the usual harmony of light and sound had quieted, every street, every spire, listening to what would happen next. In the grand chamber of the Ellison crown, Queen Liray stood before a circle of light, her crown dimmed to a soft shimmer. Around her floated hollow projections of her council, half defiant, half afraid. The failed assassination had exposed more than rebellion. It had revealed how fractured her world had become. You will tear the heart of Elyndra apart if you follow this path, Counselor Varen warned. A queen bound to a human will shatter the foundation of our belief. Lyray's voice was calm, but beneath it ran the gravity of command. Belief without compassion is tyranny. I will not lead a world that fears peace. Varen's projection flickered. Then you will stand alone. So be it, she said, and with a gesture dismissed them. When the chamber dimmed, Elias stepped from the shadows. He had heard every word. You just declared war on your own council. She turned to him slowly, her gaze steady, luminous. If peace demands courage, then let them call it war. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them carried everything they could not yet say. Finally, Lyray sighed, a sound almost human. You could still leave, Elias Ward. The colony ship would take you home. No one would blame you, he smiled faintly. And miss your wedding? Her lips curved in surprise. You still intend to hold me to that promise? Elias stepped closer, his voice low, sincere. You made that promise because you hoped I could calm your child. But along the way you calmed me too. You made me believe that even in a universe of endless distance, hearts can still meet halfway. Her eyes softened, the light in them trembling like water touched by wind. You speak as if you understand the weight of eternity. I don't, he admitted. But maybe eternity's just a long time to be alone. And maybe I don't want you to be. For a moment she simply looked at him, this fragile human who had crossed galaxies in fear to stand beside her. Then with quiet reverence she extended her hand. Then stand with me, she whispered, not as a subject, not as a symbol, but as the heart I chose. He took her hand and the Elisan crown responded. The entire ship pulsed with gentle light, the living metal harmonizing with their joined pulse. It was as if Elyndra herself approved. Liara entered the chamber quietly, her silver gown catching the moonlight. She smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Mother, Elias, I can feel it. The world is listening. Outside, the twin moons aligned perfectly above the citadel, something that happened once in 1,000 years. It was said in Elyndran legend that when the moons kissed, destiny would listen to the hearts that spoke beneath them. The queen turned to the vast open balcony, her voice rising like a song. Let the record of stars witness this vow. I, Lyray of Elyndra, bind my fate to Elias Ward of Earth. Not for politics, not for tradition, but for peace that breathes, and for hearts that dare to trust. Elias's throat tightened. He whispered, Then I vow to stand beside you, come silence or storm. As their hands met, a surge of light spiraled upward from the ship, spreading across the sky like an aurora of living silver. The people below looked up in awe, feeling for the first time in generations a warmth that transcended fear. Liara bowed her head, whispering, So the war truly ends. But even in peace, change came with a cost. Far beyond Elyndra's orbit, the remnants of the Order of Continuance watched in silence. Their leader, cloaked in shadow, murmured, The Queen has chosen love over lineage. Let us see if her heart can survive what comes. Unaware of the distant threat, Elias and Lyray stood beneath the twin moons, their joined light reflecting in each other's eyes. She reached up, touching his face gently. Your kind taught us the beauty of imperfection, she said softly. Perhaps that is what eternity was missing. Elias smiled, his fingers brushing her glowing hair. Maybe forever isn't about living endless years, it's about one moment that means everything. The queen leaned forward, their foreheads touching, light and shadow merging. Around them, the stars brightened as if the universe itself chose to pause, to honor this fragile, fearless love between two beings who refused to be divided by the void. And somewhere deep within Elyndra's living heart, a new pulse began, steady, human, eternal. Calm, my child, and I'll marry you, she had once said. Now the child was calm, the queen was free, and humanity had once again reminded the stars what love meant.